Here we are on the front of our Dutchman Kodiak 296 BHSL. We're going to go over all the components on this just like your technician did in the walkthrough. Now some of your components may differ in brand. If you want a deeper dive on those components or the components that we show you here, you can find that in our HAPS Helpful Hacks playlist on our Great American RV YouTube channel. We're going to start up front here with our 7-way plug. Our 7-way plug transfers all of our lights from our towing vehicle to our trailer, and it also has a battery charge line on here where your alternator on your vehicle will help charge that battery while you're traveling down the road. We also have our 12-volt breakaway cable. This breakaway cable needs to be connected to the receiver hitch itself where our chains hook up. We need to get a clip and clip it on there. Don't hook them to the chains or the trailer hitch itself, because what it's designed for, if this hitch breaks or anything like that, that pin is going to pull out and it'll activate the brakes on our trailer and bring the trailer to a stop. If we hook it to our safety chains and that's what fails, that's what's going to go with it, and it's not going to serve its purpose. We also have our 12-volt powered ton jack right here to run it up and down. We got a light on the front. If you follow the wire down here, it will lead to a blade fuse. So that's the first thing you want to check. If this motor isn't operating properly, you can check that blade fuse. We also want to make sure that our 12 volts is proper in order for this to work. If we can't figure out what's going on with it, we do have a black plug right here on the top. We pull that plug out, we put our crank handle in, and we can manually run that jack up and down. Behind that, we have our dual propane tanks. Our dual propane tanks are operated by a dual propane tank regulator. It does have a lever on there where you can select either the left tank or the right tank, and that is where the service will pull from. When that tank runs dry, that indicator on there will give you a red indicator instead of a green, letting you know that that tank is dry. But during the process, it will pull from that secondary tank without you ever losing any LP during that period, of course, until that secondary tank runs dry. Behind that, we have our battery storage center as well as our battery disconnect. Our battery disconnect disconnects the 12-volt power from our unit. So for storing our unit, we want to go ahead and turn that disconnect off if we are storing it unplugged. And if we are leaving our unit plugged in while we're storing it, we want to leave it on so that converter system can charge our battery. On the passenger side of our unit, of course, we have our compartment door that leads to our pass-through bay with magnetic latch up there. Here we have our city water connection. Our city water connection is if we have a port for water at our campsite or wherever we're camping at, we can run that water hose to that city connection. We can put a filter on that hose line if we wish. And once we turn it on, it will supply water to all of our fixtures in our unit. To the right of it, we have our black tank flush. Our black tank flush is going to be used to flush out that black tank, which is your sewage tank. And we'll go over some more information on that whenever we get to that black tank valve. Up here we have 2 coax connections to be able to screw a coax into. The first one to the left is our cable. If we have cable supplied to us at that campground, we run that coax to here, screw it in, and we'll scan for channels on the interior for cable. If we want to use a satellite, portable satellite, we set that up, run the coax to here, and we'll have a different port on the inside that we'll hook our satellite receiver up to and then to our TV to be able to have satellite channels. Down here at the bottom, we have our port for our black and gray tank system right here. This is where you will empty out your sewage as well as your gray. All right, so we have 2 tanks. The valves are back here. They have the colored handles. One is gray and one is black. Gray is for gray tank, which is your showers and your sinks. That's where all that water will go in and be emptied by opening that valve. Now your gray water, if you have a sewer hose hooked up and you have a dump station at your site, you can leave your gray tank open all the time if you wish and allow that water to drain out. Black tank, however, whenever you open that valve and that sewage comes out, it empties the tank. So we don't want that. We want to keep that tank closed off whenever we're operating that unit. So anytime we're camping, black tank valve closed so everything can build up in there, and when we're ready to dump, we open it up and then we go to our black tank flush right here. We hook a water hose up to it, and it's like a little spray port inside that tank, and it flushes that tank out. Any debris, sewage, or anything that's in there, it will flush it down the drain. Now, once we are done, we want to close that black tank valve and leave several gallons of water in that tank, either via the black tank flush or by holding the pedal down on our toilet, add the water in there, and then put our chemicals in there. The reason we do that is because there's still going to be some little debris and whatever left over in that tank. The chemicals in the water is going to keep it from drying out. It'll slosh in there, help clean that tank. You can empty it again if you wish after a road trip. But the main thing is keep it closed until you're ready to dump. Don't ever leave it open all the time because it will cause a dry tank. Dry tank is where that sewage dries up in there and it's impossible to clean, so that tank's going to have to be replaced. So keep that in mind when you're operating your black and gray tank system. Gray tank open all the time, black tank closed until dumping. Down here we also have a red and blue line sticking out with valves on the end of it. These are our low point drains. Our low point drains are used if we ever want to drain our plumbing system. If we're preparing for winter time, we're getting ready to winterize our unit, we'll open those valves and allow the water to drain out of all our pipes. If you want more information on winterization, we have that video in our helpful hack section. Here below our slide out, right behind the axle, we have our second gray tank. Works just like the one in the front, it's just for a different section of your camper. So we can leave that open all the time, drain the water out when we use it. Once again, if you don't have a port, you can leave it closed, fill that tank up, that's fine, get to your dump station and flush it out. But that is where that gray tank is located, and the valve is right next to the outlet. Right at the rear of our unit, we have our freshwater connection. Our freshwater connection, it leads to a tank, our fresh tank, right? So we can take a water hose, we put it in there, and we turn it on, and we're filling our fresh tank. Our fresh tank is going to be used when we don't have a water connection at the campground and we need to dry camp is what it's called. We'll turn that water pump on, it's going to pull from this tank and supply water to all of our fixtures in the unit. You have what you fill, so keep that in mind. You want to conserve water when using out of your fresh tank. And you can monitor the filling and the level of it by our monitor panel on the inside. We'll go to that panel and watch it when we fill it. That way we can get it to the correct level that we wish. If we ever want to drain that tank, if we look down here, we do have a white hose sticking out. That white hose has a valve on it. We open it up, drain that water out. You definitely don't want to carry it around if you don't need it because it's extra added weight. And we also don't want to leave water in there so it can get stagnant either. So drain it out when not in use. We have our 50 amp twist lock plug right here. This twist lock plug, to pull it out, twist to the left and wiggle it out. And we can see we have 3 prongs right here. We're going to line those up with this system here. Before we do that, we want to make sure all of our appliances, our air conditioner and everything is off on our RV, because it will cause a spike in amperage and it will damage your components. So we want to make sure everything's off, and we don't want to plug in our other end just yet either because it can cause an arc. So we line up our prongs, we twist and we lock it in. We also have a retainer ring. We go ahead and tighten that up as well to lock that system in to make sure that cable doesn't come off. Here on the back of our unit, of course, we have our full-size spare. We have our Furrion tankless water heater system. This is never-ending hot water for our system. We also have a spray port right here. It's where that blue coiled hose that we have, we can go ahead and quick connect that in there, and then we have a spray port outside. We want to disconnect it, we hit that outer ring, pop it out, and we can store that hose. Up top, we have our pre-wire for our Furrion backup camera system. It's already pre-wired, so all you have to do is purchase the camera and you can have it installed on there. We also have our Lippert on-the-go ladder system, which is the bracket up top. You purchase the telescopic ladder to be able to access your roof. Now, why do we need to access our roof? Well, every 60 to 90 days, we need to get up on our roof and check the sealants up there. Want to check for any openings, gaps, drying up, cracks, holes in our rubber, anything like that. That is considered customer maintenance. It should be checked every 60 to 90 days and sealed up appropriately with roof sealant. We need to make sure that we're taking care of that just like we would change the oil in our car, customer maintenance. If any water is able to enter in through any of these non-maintained areas, warranty is not going to cover this. This is going to be customer pay. We also need to watch out anything that is installed around our corners, our appliances, our windows, anywhere that we have trim or lights or whatever on the sides, we're going to have some silicone sealant. We need to make sure that we're checking that every 60 to 90 days too on our unit. It is required by the manufacturer for that warranty to be covered. If there's any water damage, once again, due to lack of maintenance, manufacturer is not going to cover it. We also have on our unit our rear bumper right here. If we pull our caps off the ends like this, we can store our sewer hose in there. which is a nice place to put it. That way we don't have to worry about getting our front compartment all nasty. Now working from the passenger side, on the front we have our solar on the side plug, 2-prong plug, used if we want to have solar. Well, let's say we're storing our unit and it's under some trees. We want solar to charge our battery system. You can buy a separate panel, put it out where the sun hits all the time, and plug it in right here, and it will go through our controller, convert the appropriate charging voltage, and charge your battery system. You already have that solar controller on here, and you also have some solar panels up top too. So you already have part of the system operational, and it is going to charge your batteries. You're also prepped for an inverter. An inverter converts 12 volts to 110. So once again, if we're dry camping and we don't have a plug-in for where we're at, maybe we're staying somewhere at a rest stop or whatever for the night, we have an inverter system. It will pull from the battery voltage and supply us with 110 at some of our outlets for some small appliances. Now, the inverter is only going to last as long as battery power it has. We'll let it, if we have multiple batteries, of course that inverter will last a lot longer. We also have 3 switches in here, one for our glow lights down at the bottom at our stabilizer jacks, another one for our front cap lights, and another one for our interior pass-through storage right here. So down here we have the switch on our J-wrap. This is for our stabilizer jacks. Our electric stabilizer jacks are 12 volt operated. These jacks will come down and stabilize your unit. If you want to level your unit, you need to get the stacker blocks and put them under your wheels whenever you park it to level it left to right, and use your tongue jack to level it from front to back. These are not levelers. You shouldn't put a bunch of weight on them, and if you do, they're going to collapse and it's going to be customer pay. So only extend these down to where they're touching the ground and a little bit more, just to help stabilize that unit and reduce movement inside. This is a 12 volt operated unit. It does have some wiring under here. You can follow it to a resettable breaker, and you can check the voltage there if you ever have an issue with it. And if you can't get it to work, there is an override for it. We'll go over that now. So here we are back on the driver's side of our unit, opposite of our motor in and our switch, and we have this handle. We can see this handle has a little slice in it, and it will line up with the post on that jack. We line it up and we can manually run that jack up and down if we need to. As we move down our unit, of course, we have our awning. Our awning is 12 volt powered. If we have an issue with that, we go to that 12 volt fuse panel that will follow on the inside, check, make sure any fuses aren't blown. Our awning has some important information. If we are leaving our unit for an extended period of time, roll that awning in. If there's a storm coming, wind blowing hard, anything like that, roll that awning in. See everybody else with their awning rolled in, roll that awning in. If you do not, and damage occurs due to a storm, rain, anything like that, this will be customer pay or insurance claim, one of the two. You don't want to have to deal with it. So be safe, roll that awning in. It is a sunshade only, not an umbrella. That is exactly what the manufacturer says. One thing that we need to do once we have our awning out is we need to either pitch it to the front or the rear. We do that, we have this knob right here, and we pull down on this arm, and we can pitch it at whatever pitch we want, just so long as it's pitched, and we tighten up that knob. This is for if any dew or AC runoff or anything like that gets onto this, it can run and drain off. If we don't do that, that water is going to pool in the middle of this awning and it will eventually collapse. And once again, insurance claim, not warranty. So make sure that you roll it in any bad weather pending, or when you leave your camper for an extended period of time, and make sure we also pitch it for any water drain off as well. When we want to go ahead and raise it back up, which we need to do before we retract that awning, hold our arm right here, loosen that knob, and we can allow that shock arm to raise it back up. Here we have our entry door. Our entry door does have friction hinges, which helps reduce the opportunity for the wind to blow it closed, so you will feel some resistance there. We also have a screen door. It's latched onto that main entry door. We pull that lever right there and it will lock into the frame of our door. To open it, once again, same thing. We can close it and it'll latch onto our entry door. Here we have our MORryde solid steps. Our MORryde steps are stored by lifting them up, and then we have this little latch right here. We want to make sure it's latched into the inner frame before we close our door. When we're ready to bring them down, pull that blue latch and we can drop our steps down. Now another important thing is, After we have our unit leveled and everything, we want to make sure we level our steps next. If we don't, it can cause damage to that door. If they're too far up, this frame will hit the frame of the steps and it will cause damage to that door. So make sure you have the steps leveled off before you close that door for the first time. We do that by pushing this lever right here. If we push that lever, we can see our step legs go up and down, and they will lock in place whenever you pull your hand off that lever. So we can do that while it's on the ground to level out our unit, our steps, I mean. Just hold them down and it will lock them in until your steps are level and where you want them to be. Here above me we have our vent for our range hood vent. That fan will exhaust out of there. It does have 2 push tabs on it to keep it closed whenever we're not using it. You will have to manually pop it open in order for that air to exhaust out of there if you're ever using that fan above the stovetop. When you're done, you should close it back. This prevents any insects or rodents from building any nests in that vent. Here we have our mount for our outdoor TV, and we have our 110 receptacle and our coax to be able to hook to that TV for air or cable channels. That 110 receptacle is a GFCI protected receptacle. So in the event that it's not working, you're going to want to go on the inside and check our main GFCI that we'll visit whenever we cover the interior. Here we have our furnace. Our furnace is a gas operated furnace. It's to heat the interior of your unit. Not much to look at out here. Just know that this exhaust right here will be putting out some hot air. So be mindful of that when you are out here under the patio. Here we have our mount for our outdoor grill, and under it we have our quick connect. The quick connect is supplied from our propane tanks in the front in order to run your gas griddle or grill that you have with your unit. Here we have our outdoor fridge. Our outdoor fridge is 110 operated, so keep in mind anytime you plug in your unit to a 15, 30, or 50 amp service, you're supplying power to that fridge unless you turn the breaker off inside or unplug it. And I tell you this because that unit is going to build up cool air on the inside. It has a little freezer too. It's going to produce some ice around that freezer section, condensation in there. So once you turn your unit off, all that water is going to drain to the bottom of that refrigerator, and these are airtight gaskets, not watertight, so that water can leak out and damage the wood in that compartment. That's not a manufacturer warranty item, so make sure you clean out, defrost, and get all the water out of there. This stops any damage from that compartment, and it also reduces any mold or mildew opportunity to build up in that refrigerator. Down here at the bottom we have another set of stabilizer jacks, once again just like the front, 12-volt operated and stabilizer jacks only. As we walk into our entry, we have our main control center here as well as our tankless water heater controller. Let's go over those options now. So this is our control panel right here. We have our 12-volt water pump. This is going to pull from our fresh tank whenever we are not hooked to a water connection. We want to kick that on. That will kick on our pump and pull water from that fresh tank. Here we have our fresh tank level. By hitting that button, it lights up the LEDs, tells you what level that tank is at. We also have our battery level, our black tank, and our gray tanks. Now you do have more options for black than what you need. This is a standard panel that they put in all their units, so it's going to have more options of what your unit actually has. You do have 2 gray tanks, so you'll hit that button to be able to monitor both of those. Like I said, even though black 2 lights up, it is not an actual tank on your unit. Here we have our porch lights. That's your awning lights outside. Our ceiling light switch turns our lights off on our ceiling. Any lights that don't operate with this do have a push button or a motion sensor on them. You just need to check and see which one it is in order to find out how they operate. Here we have our slide out button. Our slide out is a 12-volt operated slide out. It is cable driven. We do have another video that goes over cable driven slides. I suggest you watch in the helpful hacks section. Our awning switch in and out. Once again, another 12-volt operated unit. Here we have our Furrion controller for our tankless water heater system. Our first light right there is our power light. It indicates our power is on. Our second one is for Fahrenheit. Our next one is for Celsius. If we want to swap that temperature degree, we just hit that button right there. If we want to change what our temperature is going to be whenever that water comes out, we use our arrows right here. There is a last indicator. This is our flame indicator. When we turn that hot water on, once the flame ignites, it just indicates that the flame is lit and the unit is operational. It will only be operational when we're running water to our fixtures that is hot. Down here at the bottom, we have our 110 and 12 volt center. Our 110 breakers are all going to be right here, and our 12-volt fuses are right here. We want to go here if we have issues with either. They are all labeled properly so we know what is what. We also have a converter system under here. Our converter is what changes 110 to 12 volts. It's essentially a battery charger for your 12-volt system. So once we're plugged into shore power, which is our plug outside, it'll be able to charge up that battery. We also have our CO and propane gas system right here, our LP alarm. This is to let us know if we have any CO or propane leaks inside our unit. It will go ahead and chirp and let you know. We should be tested once a month to make sure that it is in working condition. Here on the wall we have our Furrion thermostat for our AC system. We hold down that mode button and it will go ahead and kick it on. Our first mode is cool mode. This will actually cool the air in your unit. We have 3 different fan speeds. Our A is auto. It's going to kick between high and low, and it will also turn off whenever the compressor is off, just like your fan and AC system at home. If we want that fan to stay on all the time, we can choose low or high, and the system will still cool, and that fan will stay on even when that compressor turns off. Our next mode is our heat mode. This is for our furnace. Our furnace is going to come through the vents in the floor. It's going to come out the bottom, not out of your rooftop air. Completely different system. Once again, gas operated. So I want to make sure that before we operate it, we go over to that stove and we let all the air out of our system. We'll go over that here in a minute. So we go and set whatever temperature we want our unit to be. There's only going to be the initial fan speed, so hitting that fan button is not going to make a difference in the fan speed of your furnace. It will kick on when the furnace is operated and turn off when the furnace is off. Our next mode is our fan mode. Our fan mode is going to come out of that rooftop air once again, and it's just going to circulate air. It's not going to cool anything. It's just going to circulate your air and transfer it throughout the unit. Our next mode is our dry mode. This is like a dehumidifier for your unit. We hit a set point, let's say in this case 71 degrees, and our unit will cool down to 71 degrees, and it cycles this way. That way it doesn't keep freezing you out of the unit. It just keeps the temperature down enough to keep the dry air out and leave it comfortable inside the unit. In order to turn our system off, we hold down that mode button right there and our system will kick off. In our bathroom, we have our main GFCI outlet. This is the one that controls the outlets that are GFCI protected. If any of those outlets are not operational, you will likely see a little red light down here at the bottom. That means that it needs to be reset. You'll hit the black button on that outlet and reset those outlets out there. If we ever want to test this system, we can hit that test button. That light will show on, letting us know that it's faulted. And once again, we just hit that reset button and we'll provide power back to those outlets. Here we have our shower. Our shower has our doors. Our doors have travel latches. We want to make sure that when we hit the road that our travel latches are secure, our doors are secure, so we don't have any damage when we hit the road. Our shower has a faucet head that turns off and on. We'll adjust our faucet wherever we want it as far as temperature, and then we can use this shower head to turn it off. When do we use it, you say? Well, we use this whenever we are dry camping. We're trying to conserve the amount of water that we use out of that fresh tank or the amount of water that we're putting into that gray tank. So we find our proper temperature that we wish to have there, and we can shut this off in between uses of the shower. As far as you get in the shower, you go ahead and get wet, you turn your shower head off. That way you can soap up, then you kick it back on to go ahead and rinse yourself off and get cleaned up. Then we can turn it off at our faucets here. You can do whatever you wish. It's just an easier task than trying to find that sweet spot for your hot water again. One tip I'll give you is that initially when you kick this back on, there will be a short burst of cold water before it returns back to regular temperature. You do have an exhaust fan over the shower. Highly suggested that you turn that on whenever you use the shower. It helps exhaust the steam and everything out of this bathroom and reduces the opportunity for mold and mildew. Here we have our RV toilet. Very different from our household toilet, and the fact that our lever is down here at the bottom, and it's only going to go ahead and put in a small amount of water in that toilet. When we're using number 1, flush it, let it roll. If we're using number 2, we need to fill that toilet bowl up. We do that by slightly pushing down that pedal, and it will begin to fill water up in that toilet. We want to do it just enough to where the water is coming out and that valve at the bottom is not open. We do this, that way we fill up with enough water to actually flush whatever solids we are putting in down this toilet. When we're ready, big flush all the way down, and we dump that system. We only use RV toilet paper in here, and we shouldn't put anything besides the sewage and RV toilet paper that is intended to go into the system. You put anything else other than those two things in here, you're going to end up with some issues in your plumbing and clogging it up, and that can get quite costly. So make sure that you're only putting what is recommended in this system. When we flush our black tank out, we can come here, hold that foot pedal down, and fill that black tank up with a little bit of water. Like I said, a couple gallons is fine. And then we pour our chemicals in right here, open that valve, let it dump into that tank before we go to store our unit. Not too much to go over in our bedroom. We do have some storage under the bed if we lift it up. We also have our backer for our television above me here, and we have our coax plates. Our coax plates are two different ones. Our bottom one on this one is for our satellite. Plain plate, no buttons on it or anything. You're going to come from here to your receiver, and then from your receiver to your TV with HDMI of some type, and that will provide you with your Dish Network or DirecTV stations. Above it is our antenna and cable coax, all on the same port. We go ahead and plug that coax into our TV, and we have a little button on the side. That button has a light. It's going to say antenna power. Whenever we want antenna power and we're scanning for air channels that we're getting off of our Air 360 antenna that we have on the roof, we want that antenna power on. This helps boost that antenna to be able to pick up more stations in your area. When we are wanting cable channels at the campground, we have the coax cable hooked up to the cable station, we hit that button and turn it off. If we don't do that, it will scramble the channels that we are trying to get from the cable. So antenna power on for when we're doing air channels, antenna power off when we're scanning for cable. The other button on here is for our Wi-Fi power. Wi-Fi power is connected through our antenna system. If we were to upgrade and install that router, this button would kick on the power for that router and either amplify the Wi-Fi you have at the campground, or you can get a SIM card from your cell phone network provider to have installed in there, and you can have Wi-Fi wherever their services provide. This unit being a 50 amp service, it is pre-wired for a second AC system. This vent can be removed to have that rooftop AC installed, and we already have the 110 wire ran right here to be able to wire that up. Your unit may already be provided with that second AC, but if not, it is pre-wired and ready to be upgraded. In our kitchen area, we have our standard Furrion microwave. We have our stovetop range hood right here, 12 volt fan and light. And we also have a screen up here with a filter. We want to get that cleaned up after a little bit of time of use, get all the grease and everything off of there. Remember, when we use that fan up here, we want that exhaust vent on the outside open. We also have our glass top cover for our stove. We're going to open that up. We also have some ambiance lights right here. Switch 1 will light up your knobs right here. Switch 2 will light up the knobs and your oven down below. So for this system, we would turn it to our flame right there, and we have a manual igniter. We turn that until our burner is lit. We're looking for a nice crisp blue flame on our stovetop. Now, if you have air in your system, you want to come to here first and light that stove. It may take a little bit of time. You turn it to that flame, and you want to keep hitting this ignite button until it lights. We don't want to just let that gas run and run and run, because you may be filling your unit up with gas. And we want to just come here, turn it to the flame button to light it, and keep it hitting that ignite button. When do we get air in our system? We get air in our system after we've stored our unit. Anytime we turn our propane tanks off, the propane in there dissipates out, and you will end up with air in your lines. Or anytime we change our propane tanks, you will end up with air in your lines. So anytime you change them or you pull it out of storage after having it off, come to this stovetop first, turn your propane on, and light that stovetop and get all the air out of that system. Highly suggest doing this before activating your tankless water heater or your furnace, anything like that, because if you have air in that system, it's going to keep throwing a fault on those items. This is the only manual appliance that you have in your unit that you can quickly disperse the air out of that system. Our oven can be initiated by using our knob all the way to the right. We'll turn it to that flame sense. The only difference on this one, we have to push it down. When we push it down and hold it, we're going to turn it until that pilot lights underneath. Now, even though that pilot is lit, we have to hold that button down for a little while until the thermocouple warms up. Once we pull our thumb off of it, we should see it stay lit. Once it stays lit, we can go ahead and turn our knob to our desired temperature, and our burner tube will light up. If the pilot light goes out whenever you pull off of that knob, then that means you didn't hold it down long enough, and you should go ahead and relight it. The last component in our unit is our 12-volt refrigerator. In this case, it's 12-volt Furrion refrigerator. Our controller knob is right here. We can turn it from cold to colder or to the off position. Our light will still stay on even though it's in the off position. Same as our outdoor refrigerator. We want to go ahead and keep this cleaned out. Whenever we turn our system off, get all that ice, let it defrost, and get the water out of here. There's no drains in this refrigerator. The water will leak out of these gaskets and damage the wood around your refrigerator. Once again, not a warranty claim. Consider customer maintenance. So defrost it properly, get all the moisture out of here, and it will also prevent mold and mildew in your refrigerator. Here we have our mount for our TV and our entertainment center for our living room. We have a coax plate right here. This would be for our cable antenna, and we can open this up, and we have our pantry as well. Our pantry is provided with a light up here. You'll notice that this is a motion sense light. You have several of them in your bathroom as well. There is a switch on the back side, and there is a 1 and a 2 switch. The 1 is on all the time. The 2 is motion sense. So that means that once we step out of this area and there's no movement, that light will turn off on its own. And when you open this door again, that light will turn it back on. We are also prepped for a washer dryer if you decide to remove these shelves. Of course, you have your washer dryer hoses right here, as well as that drain for if you want to upgrade to the washer dryer system. Want to make sure before we travel, we have that travel latch on here to make sure that those doors stays closed whenever we're hitting the road. Let's go over our fireplace. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to, and right here this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these 2 buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time, and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. Not much to go over in our bunk area. We do have pocket doors just like we do for the bathrooms. Once again, still have travel straps for those. We want to make sure that we have them latched up before we hit the road. Now, you do have a multi-function table here. If you want to remove this back bench, you have an extra post hole in the back. You can move one over to there and turn this table to be able to give a long booth table and extra space between the table and the chairs.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.